Hi.
Hey, hi, Jasmine.
Oh, sorry, actually, I was told that the session will be at 8:30 p.m. of your time.
Uh, Not sure about it because I have been informed that you will be having a session.
Okay.
Uh,
Actually, that's the reason I didn't join it. Sorry about it.
no worries. Okay. So, yeah, before starting the session, Jasmika, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and why you need this course? What is the agenda behind it?
Sure. My full name is Jasmika Vemanipalli. Actually, I have an idea of basics of Python. So I would like to continue from in-depth of Python and have a little bit idea of AWS as well, but not entirely because I have just written AWS Cloud Practitioner exam because of certification. And the purpose of joining the session is to get more knowledge of both Python and AWS and do a little bit project on my own so that I can present myself when I'm giving an interview. That's the reason I have taken this
Okay.
session.
Okay. So, coming to my background, like I have around 8 years of experience in AWS, real-time experience working with real-time clients, and coming to the uh, tech stack in a very nutshell, it's AWS developer, AWS architect, AWS data engineer, and DevOps. So these are the roles
Mm.
which I have working on. So yeah. So let's start the session with the introductory session. So before that, let me share my screen.
Sure.
So I hope you have seen this course content, right?
Yeah, I have seen
So
this.
yeah. So basically, what we are gonna do, we are gonna start with the Python, okay? Because if we know the Python, then if I go to AWS, so whenever I will be explaining you the topics of AWS or any services, if you want to write or automate that using a Python code, that would be easy. Okay, so that's
Mhm.
why the first I'm going with the Python session. Okay, and there we'll be explaining the Python like topics like the overview and the history of it, and how basically we can install, and also the editors. Okay, which we basically use in uh, with client or any kind of projects. Okay, which will basically make your life easy. And then we'll slowly start with the core concepts of Python. Like basically, we have the variables, we have the different data types. Okay, the basic data types, advanced data types, where you will be learning about boolean, strings, uh, list, tuple, uh, like numbers and all. Okay, and then we'll move to the operators. We'll learn about the operators, we'll learn about the loops. Okay, flow control basically. And I already talk about the list, sequences, and dictionary. And then we'll see the function, modules, and the packages. How basically we can write a function, how we can call it, and where we have to use it. Okay, and also we'll see how basically we can create a module. Okay, and then the how basically we can package those modules to use it somewhere else. Okay, and then the we'll use the error and exception handling and the file handling as well. So if you want to write something to the file, or if you want to read something from the file, how basically you can do it, whether it's a JSON, CSV. Okay. So all those things we are gonna cover, and then we'll move to the advanced Python where we are gonna learn about the OOPS concept, okay, which is object-oriented programming. So there we are gonna cover all the core concept of OOPS like constructor, destructor, class, objects, and their different types like the different concepts about abstraction, encapsulations, okay, inheritance, polymorphism. So like that, we are gonna cover all the OOPS concept, and the last two is the regex and the multi-threading. However, multi-threading is not very much famous in Python, okay, but it does. And also the regular expression, how basically we can use the regular expression in the code. Okay, so this is pretty much about the Python section. And then if I go to the 1 minute, and then we'll slowly move to the AWS side of it. Okay, so here in AWS, we are gonna cover all these topics in detail. Okay, so here if you see, so we have introduction of the AWS, where we are gonna cover what is the AWS, what is the technology behind the cloud. Okay, what is cloud? What is cloud computing? What are different types of that? So we are gonna cover introduction, and then we'll move to the identity and access management, where we are gonna see how basically we manage the access of each and every user's resources and all those. And then we'll move to the compute. We are gonna learn about the EC2, and I will also show you how containers work in the EC2. We'll be installing a Docker. We will be running a small basics uh, commands of Docker. Okay, how it works, and then AWS also offers Docker as a service, which is ECS, container as a service. So that we are gonna cover, and then we'll move to the serverless compute of Lambda, step functions, and all those things. And then after compute, we are going to cover the networking part. We'll be creating a VPC, which is a heart of any project or any AWS environment. And then slowly we'll cover the storage part of it. After that, we'll see about the databases, whether it's a SQL, NoSQL databases, and then the logging and monitoring. How basically, because we will be building a lot of things. Okay, so how basically we can see the logs and how basically we can monitor it. What are all the services AWS offers? And then we'll see the application integration services, okay, like SNS, SQS. Those things we are gonna cover. And then we'll see a infrastructure as a code, like whatever the infrastructure we will be building in AWS, how basically we can build it through a code. Okay, because either we can go to the AWS management console and we can create it, or we can write a code which will create the resources wherever we want. And then we have a auto scaling and elastic load balancers, and then we'll have a miscellaneous topics where we are going to cover Route 53, CloudFront, all the advanced topics. Okay, elastic beanstalk. So likewise, we are going to cover all the advanced topic of AWS.
Okay.
So yeah, let's start. So any questions or query you are having?
Yeah, actually, in the Python topics, I'm familiar up to functions, so you can continue from module.
So do you want me to revise it quickly or how?
That's okay with me. I can, I'm good at those topics, so you can just give me the material after completion of your session. Maybe I can go through it, but
Mhm.
from module is it's fine.
Okay. So uh, I hope you this particular uh, PowerPoint is visible, right?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So let's talk about the error and exception.
Actually, I need module as well, a little bit of 20th slide.
This particular thing.
Yeah, from there I want like modules and types.
Okay. Yeah, this will cover uh, once we'll see this error and exceptions and little bit of oops concept. Okay, or we can,
Okay.
yeah, then we'll create a module. Okay, and then we'll create
Mhm.
a packages.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's go with first start with the error and exceptions. Okay. So what happens in basically Python when we write any kind of code? Okay, so we encounter with multiple errors, but sometimes those error we don't want to impact our flow of the code. Okay, so we want those errors to be printed, but either perform any kind of task based on that, or we just ignore it. Okay, so there we use the error exception. Okay, error and exception. So let me first open the editor. So here I will be using Visual Studio Code. Okay,
Yeah.
just give me a second for the code which I created, but I don't know where I put it. So let it be. I'm not able to find it out. Will not waste our time.
Sure.
Start it. So are you able to see my screen? Visual Studio Code.
No, I can just see the slides.
Okay, let me reshare it. Is it visible?
Yeah, now it's visible.
So let me give it a file over here. So here I have created the Python file. So what I was saying, so whenever we do any kind of whenever we write any kind of logic, sometimes what happens, we get an error. Okay, and for that error, we basically try either, so the errors which we get, sometimes it's useful and sometimes we know that error is gonna happen. Okay, so those error, based on whatever we are getting an error, we try to avoid or handle that. Okay, because we don't want to break out the flow of our code. So suppose if I divide anything with the zero. Okay, so we know that if I'm gonna divide anything with zero, suppose 2 divided by 0, it's gonna give me a error, because we have also learned that we can't divide any number with 0. Okay, so here in a coding term we get as 0 division error. Okay, this is called as 0 division error. So these are called as logical error. Okay, because we have written some logic and due to that we are getting an error. There are some error which is also called as syntax error. Okay, so those are the errors when we get the syntax error when we have written something wrong. Okay, some syntax is wrong. Now if I show you, we have print. Okay, and I will just say Python. Okay. And if I try to run it, you see we are getting an error over here. What is the error? That syntax error, missing parenthesis, because whatever I have written here, this is supported in
Python
Python
2.
2. Okay, Python 2 version. Okay, so to make it correct, we can just put the parenthesis here. Okay, and so let me do it in a next line. Here, let me comment this as well. So this is what the supported version, supported syntax in Python 3. And here you see, I didn't get any error. Okay, so we get the syntax error as well. And there are different error based on, like suppose if I want to use Boto 3. Okay, Boto 3 you will be using a lot if you have to work with AWS. Okay, Boto 3 is a package or library which basically helps us to connect with AWS resources if we provide the credentials, okay, and interact with the AWS console through programmatic access. So suppose if I write boto3.client, okay, client. So here you see we are getting this particular line as highlighted, okay, underlined with the amber color, and it says that Boto3 is not defined. Okay, so if we don't define anything, we get a different error which is known as a name error. Okay, because we haven't defined the value for the Boto3. Okay, so likewise we are having a different error as well. Suppose you have used any kind of package which you haven't imported. Okay, so at that time also you will get a error. Okay, it says that importer. Okay, it's not imported. Here it still say Boto3. Okay. Okay, so likewise we get a different errors and we handle accordingly. So suppose uh, there is another one. Suppose if I'm writing an if statement. Okay, if uh, 3 is greater than 1, which is true. Okay, and
Mm.
you know the basics of Python, right? Whenever we
Yeah.
write a Python, we follow the indentation. Okay, if we our indentation is wrong, like print, okay, we'll get an error as an indentation error. So here you see, we'll get an indentation error. Okay, so
Yeah.
likewise, we get a multiple error, and based on that, we'll either correct our code, or there are some error where we get it as a, like, okay, we know that the error is gonna happen, but still we don't want to break our code flow, and we want to continue with the execution of the code. So here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write you all the uh, basics, or basically common errors which we get. Okay, so the very first one is index error. You must have come across this error when you deal with the array. Okay, so when we provide the wrong index in a list, okay, while retrieving a data, it throws an error. Okay, so if I have to write it, we say wrong index of a list. Okay, is retrieved. So for this, what we can do, suppose am creating a list. Okay, it's like one,
Mm.
2, 3. Okay, and if I try to access this, like print a of 3. Okay, so this particular thing is gonna give me a error.
Because we don't have. Um,
Yeah, yeah, because see here, list index is out
list
of range,
out of range.
because here we have 0, 1, and 2. We don't have third value, basically third index, which is fourth value, because in array it starts from 0. Okay, counting starts from 0. Okay, so this gives a index error, and then assertion error is also there. This assertion error is important when you write a test code. Okay, if a particular statement fails, okay, at that particular time, this provides an assertion error. Okay, so this is, so this is about the when the assert statement is failed. Fails. Now the next one, we have attribute error. So this is the error occurs when any kind of when I say, when we do the assignment, okay, whether we are assigning anything to a particular attribute, at that particular time we get this attribute error. Okay, when the attribute assignment fails. So suppose we have an attribute A and we want to assign a value. Okay, but due to some reason the assignment is failing. At that particular time, we get this attribute error. Okay, so
Okay.
attribute assignment fail. Then we have already talked about the import error.
Yeah.
So if we don't uh, import the module before use, okay, and then we have another one, which is key error. So key error basically happens with the dictionary. Okay, so in the dictionary, you know that we'll have key value pair. Okay, key and then the value. So suppose If you are retrieving any key which doesn't exist in the dictionary, it gives a key error. Okay, key if not exists in dictionary, then it gives a key error. And then we have name error. We already see name error. Okay, if we don't define any variable and we try to call it, it gives a name error. Okay. Is not defined. Okay. And then we have another one which is memory error. Okay. So this basically occurs when we try to deal with a very huge file. Okay. And the memory assigned to a Python is not sufficient for that process. Okay. At that particular time, we get that memory error. Or if the program is running, okay, and it's dealing with the very huge numbers and all, and if the particular memory is not available, it gives out of memory or memory error. Okay, basically out of memory. Now the last one is the type error. So this occurs when the function and operations are applied in an incorrect type. So suppose if we try to add, or if we try to equate add two, one string and one integer. Okay, so at that operation is incorrect type because there you are trying to add string and number together. Okay, so it will fail. This gives the type error. So operation and function are applied in an incorrect type. Okay, so these are the types which we come across. Okay, now what we'll do, we'll try to execute a simple basic error code which will basically throw an error. Okay, so the same which I show. First I will try. Also, you, whenever we write any kind of code, yeah, whenever we write any kind of code, and if we try to handle the error, we start writing as a try except block. Okay, so here we have three important blocks. Okay, first is try, where we are gonna write our logic. Okay, logic will be written. Okay, and then another one we have except. Except basically what does, it catches the exception, or in easy word, error. Okay, and does perform activity based on it. And then there is another block which is finally. So finally is something. So if error occurs or doesn't occurs, it doesn't matter actually. Okay, if error occurs, then also the finally block is gonna execute. If error occurs, then also finally block is gonna execute. So it gets executed every time. So there will be some logic. Okay, when you want that to be executed, if it gonna pass, if it gonna fail. Okay, doesn't matter. So let's try to write, okay, few code over here. So suppose if I try print 1 divide by 0. So we know that this particular thing is gonna give me an error, and then I will write except. Currently I will do pass. Okay, I don't want to do anything. So when I try to run it, so you see it's not giving any error. Why? Because we have written this logic, and whenever there is any error, it goes into this except part. I will show you. Okay, now if I don't want to basically uh, pass it, I want to throw some error. Okay, so I will just write print. I will simply write error occurs. Okay, and then again what I will do, I will run it. So now you will see it's getting printed as error. So whatever you write in the try block, it basically catch by this except block. Okay, if any error occurs. If not, if I try to write it one by one, okay, and if I run it, you see there is no error. Okay, it's giving the output of whatever this try block is trying to execute because there is no error. Okay, and then we will be having a value error. Sorry, we will be having a finally block as well. Okay, so finally, and here we'll write print uh, execute every time. Okay, so what I will do, I will just run this. You will see this particular print is gonna execute where error occurs, and this particular print is also gonna execute because what I said, it gets
Finally
executed
can
every time.
execute.
Okay, so when I run it, you see these two has been executed. But now you will see one thing. Okay, one difference. If I just try to print this, okay, and you see it's giving this big error. Okay, and it says what error it is and what is the error. Division by zero is not allowed. So what happens do when you write a program, okay, you are not the only person who is going to read it. Okay, there are a few other persons also who is going to read it, and they might not be aware of this jargon. Okay, so that's why we try to create our own error, okay, which we keep inside this except block. Okay, we make it more readable, but it doesn't mean that you can't do it using you can't read these particular error. Okay, so there might be a scenario where you get a multiple error. Okay, and then you will write a multiple except block. So here except, what I will do, I will exception as e. Okay, I am catching an exception as e, and then I am printing it. Okay, I am printing the e, just the e, whatever the exception has been catch, that I'm trying to print it. And now if I run it, you see you are getting the same error, division by zero, because I'm just printing the error message. I'm not printing the error code. Okay, I'm just printing the error message, which is division by zero. And here, why this is important, because based on this, we can write a multiple logic. So here, what I will say, if you know how basically we can use if. Okay, if I will just copy this error message. I will copy this error message and I will print it here, paste it here. If division in E, which means I am checking whether it is a division error or not. Okay, if it's a division error, then say can't divide the value with zero. Okay, hence changing it to 1. Suppose by mistakenly you are dealing with the data, okay, and it's not like always a perfect data, okay. So if it is a 0, you don't want to execute it with a 0, obviously, because it's gonna throw an error. So we assume that, okay, if it's a 0, let's divide it by 1, okay, because that is the nearest value where what you can do, okay, it will not change the input. So here can't divide. So here I have printed can't divide the value with 0, hence changing it to 1, and then I can write print 1 divide by 1. Okay. So here what I am doing, I am catching an error, and based on the error, I am making a changes. So here if I run it, you will see type 0 is not triple. Why so? It's every time it has printed and then it's showing an error. If division during any of the above another exception for if division by 0 in not maybe just this. So here, what we can do, we can try to catch some different error as well. Okay, or we can basically what we can do, we can raise the error differently. Okay, so here what we can do, we can raise a particular error and then we can try to print it with the if and else condition. Okay, and then what we can do, we can have a different error as well, which is a value error. Okay, so suppose if I have to show how basically the value error happens, it's something like we have to mention some parameters. So what happens? Suppose you are dealing with the organization, okay, and that particular organization says that we keep the data maximum for default value like minimum data basically 1900 years. Okay, if I have to keep the value for the 1900 years minimum. Okay, the data is below that year, we have to neglect it. So how basically we are gonna use this try, except, and finally block to print it or catch that error. Okay, so here in the same block, okay, what we can write, let me write it again, try, and here suppose the value is 1800. Okay, so I can write if a is greater than 1900, it's fine. I can print value value is fine. Okay, but if it is less than, obviously if it is not greater than 1900, it is less than the 1900 value. Okay, at that particular time we can throw the value error. Okay, and how? So here we are intentionally throwing the error. Okay, here it is no error, okay, in the code, but intentionally for the validation we are throwing an error. At that time we use a value error. So here we can write raise. Raise is just to raise the error value error, and here we can write any statement. Okay, the value is less than 1900. Okay, and then we can write except block, and here we can catch this particular error. Okay, and here we can accept the value error. Value error in as E. Okay, and then here we can print the any kind of error. Either we can print directly E, so that it's going to give this particular message because we are passing this message. Okay, and if I try to, okay, first let me comment it out, and then let's print. Here you see it's giving the value is less than 1900. Okay, so this is how basically we can raise a value error. Okay, if you are dealing with any kind of value manipulations or value validating. Okay, or we can uh, go with the standard errors, whatever I have mentioned earlier. Okay, the different type of errors over here. Okay, so any kind of error we can get it. So any query you are having?
No, I'm good. Hello.
Yeah. So next, I'm missing something. I think we are good. Okay. Uh, wait. Here. This one I haven't corrected, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
So here, instead of exception, again I will go with the what is that? Zero division error. Okay, and we can catch this zero division error something like we can either print this or basically we can keep the value as zero. Okay, so we can print zero. Basically, if any kind of other error happens apart from the zero division error, the except will not catch it. Okay.
Yeah, and
So,
they will print
yeah,
directly the
yeah. If
error.
I print one, okay, here you will see that it's not catching the error. Okay, if it's catching this error, okay, and it's printing zero, but it's not catching this particular error. Okay. That's why sometimes we have to deal with the multiple except block. Okay, so let's merge these two code together. I will copy this and I will paste it here, and I will try to comment it. So here we have a two different error. Okay, one is division by zero, and the another one we are having this particular value error.
Value.
Okay, so if we try to execute this, we are getting only the very first error, because how the executions happens in the try block, as soon as it catches the first error, it goes to the next except block.
Except.
It will not execute the rest of the code. Okay, remember that. And it directly go to the except block, and it checks whether I have mentioned that or not. If not, it's gonna throw me an error. If yes, it's gonna perform the activity whatever I have mentioned. Here, just to check it out, if I change this print one by one, making this error
Mm.
go, and if again I try to execute it, you see this time I'm getting the output as one and also the error for this particular validation.
Yeah.
And then if I make change both the value and if both are correct, okay, then we are not gonna see any kind of error. Okay, and finally is gonna execute all this. Doesn't change. So this is how we tackle multiple errors for a same plot. Sometimes you will get denominator as 0 if you don't want to execute the rest of the code. Sometimes it is good, but you might check, you might do the validation of other values. Okay, so this is how basically you deal with it. So if you don't have any query so far,
No, I'm good.
okay. So let's start tomorrow. I believe we will be connecting same time. Okay, and let's cover other portions of it. Okay, we'll cover the file handling and also this modules and the packages together.
Sure. Can you please share this PPT with me so that I can go through the starting topics?
Yeah, sure. We'll be sharing this. Okay, with the coordinator and he will share.
Yeah. I have a question. Actually, the class is 6 a.m. in IST, so I'll be having 8 p.m. tomorrow as well.
So, are you comfortable this timing or the 6 and 10?
Actually, I'm comfortable for 6 a.m., but for today, if you want me to join tomorrow for that class, that's okay for me as well.
Yeah. Okay, then I will inform him. Okay. And the another thing, how about the weekend class?
Um, I'm just available from Monday to Thursday, and Friday is also like that's the reason they have shifted to morning class because uh,
Yeah,
actually
no,
Friday,
we
Saturday.
will have a 6 a.m. only. Just asking whether you will be able to connect over the weekends as well or not, anytime.
We can, if you can, Sunday is fine. For
Mm.
Friday and Saturday, if you can do that for like 7 p.m., then sorry, 7 a.m., that's good for me.
Okay,
Friday
you
and
can
Saturday.
you can you can connect with coordinator. Okay, and you can inform him your whatever the timings you are comfortable with, and then we can have a session at that particular time.
Yeah, actually, that I have asked them that because my time was earlier is 10:30. That's the reason I asked them to shift to 8:30 p.m. in your time. But I don't know where you didn't get the information about it. That's the reason I couldn't join you earlier.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. It's not a problem. So you can inform him whether you want to connect tomorrow morning 6 or evening 8. For me, both the time works well, and then we'll start with other topics.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your time.
Yeah. Good night.